You're listening to The Observing Eye. Pirate radio for the mind. Coming at you fresh from the computer hell cabin.
Hello, you beautiful lot. It's Friday, the 24th of November, 2023, and this is episode 40 of The Observing Eye. Episode 40, we finally made it. We're in the 40s. As always, I like to begin each episode with a moment of personal reflection. So, let's take a moment to contemplate the good things that have happened this week. And now a moment for the not so good. It was Thanksgiving yesterday, so I just want to wish a belated happy Thanksgiving to all of our American listeners. Hope you had a restful one, and I hope you're enjoying Black Friday. Black Friday. What a peculiar name for I don't even know where that comes from. If anybody does know where Black Friday comes from, let me know. I'd be curious to understand the etymology of Black Friday. So as it was Thanksgiving, I thought it would be appropriate for us to talk a little bit about gratitude this week. But I don't want to talk about gratitude from where, we've come at it before. I want to go into some sort of depths around Stoicism and gratitude. Now, for those of you that have not listened regularly to this podcast, you will know that Stoicism informs a lot of what I talk about each week. So I'm going to dive into some of the Stoic ideas around how we can apply gratitude and giving thanks in our daily lives. So very briefly then, for those of you that have not come across Stoicism before, it is an ancient Greek philosophy. It's been practiced since around the 3rd century BC, and it is renowned for teaching the development of self-control and fortitude as a means of overcoming destructive emotions. So that's where we're coming from when we talk about Stoicism. When we talk about Stoicism in relation to gratitude, there's a couple of things I'm going to talk about and run us through, because I feel that Stoicism can be an incredibly useful tool when it comes to cultivating a gratitude practice for, being thankful, essentially, for what we have in the present moment. So gratitude as an idea is very deeply woven into the fabric of Stoic philosophy. Stoicism teaches that there is a deep importance in appreciating what one has and in understanding the transient nature of our fortunes. And I think that's an important thing to note. There is a lot of the idea around luck and fortune plays a big part in a lot of these older philosophies. And I think it's something that we've forgotten a little bit in modern society. So where Stoicism differs a lot from other philosophies is that instead of encouraging the pursuit of more, so, the acquisition of wealth, of success, of accolades, of personal achievements, Stoicism suggests that our true contentment comes from valuing the present and the resources that we currently have at our disposal. So for Stoics, gratitude is a practice of the mind, and it enables us to maintain our composure and rationality in the face of life's adversities, essentially. So Stoics believe that by focusing on what we have, or what they have, I say we because I kind of consider myself a bit of a Stoic. So if I use we, they, it's interchangeable, just ignore that. If we focus on what we have, therefore, rather than what we lack, we can maintain a sort of inner peace and a resistance to being perturbed by the ever oncoming influx of external circumstance. So this kind of form of gratitude, it's about recognizing the value of our current state, the people in our life, the world around us, regardless of how much or how little we possess in material terms, fundamentally. There's also this idea in Stoicism called negative visualization. So that's a technique where we imagine losing the things that we value. So this practice is not intended to be morbid. It's not intended to make us anxious and panic and terrified that all things are going to come to an end, although they are, nothing is permanent. The idea of a negative visualization is to cultivate a deep appreciation for the things that we have whilst they are still present, because nothing lasts. And I don't mean that in a morbid sense, but we know it. Nothing does, not even us. By contemplating the impermanence of the things that we have in life, Stoics find a way to cherish them more deeply and to foster a state of gratitude for each moment that they have with them. So it's a very present, a very mindful state of being, this idea in Stoicism. Stoic gratitude is sort of then all about perspective. So it involves seeing each experience, be that good or bad, as an opportunity for growth, and about seeing every moment as worthy of appreciation. It's a reminder that contentment is not found in external circumstances, but in our attitude and response to those circumstances. And that's a very important thing to remember. In contemporary life, the Stoic practice of gratitude can be a powerful antidote to the often unending pursuit of more, the hedonic treadmill that we talked about so recently in a previous episode. So that's a bit of an overview of gratitude in Stoicism. But I want to dive in to look at two specific Stoic philosophers, and that's Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius. And we're going to dive into their unique and individual thoughts on gratitude and how they apply it to their Stoic existence, essentially. Once we've done that, I'm going to take all of these Stoic ideas and create a framework for a gratitude practice that you can take away and use yourself. So stick around till the end. There's going to be some useful stuff coming. Let's start with Epictetus then. Now, not that I want to give you any kind of confirmation bias, but I particularly love Epictetus's thoughts on gratitude, because he says that the root of our contentment lies in distinguishing between what is within our control and what is outside of it. Now, that is something to take away, I think. The Stoic concept of focusing only on that which is within our control is foundational to the cultivation of gratitude. Epictetus suggested that if we concern ourselves with the external world, the things outside our control, we become victims of the external. Instead, we need to focus on our own actions and choices and responses to those actions in order to find a sense of peace and well-being. So where Epictetus is coming from is he believes that gratitude is implicit in accepting the present moment and our current circumstances. My God, my words today. So Epictetus, and I've got to make sure I don't say Epictetus, not Epictetus. Epictetus urges students to welcome what life presents to them with equanimity. So acceptance becomes a form of gratitude in itself. It's an acknowledgement that the present moment is sufficient and that we can find value and lessons even in adversity. One of his famous quotes on gratitude totally encapsulates the ideas we've just talked about. And he says, "Do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well." So this idea reflects gratitude by advocating for a harmonious alignment with the course of nature and life as it unfolds, rather than battling against it. Now, there's a lot in Stoicism where it talks about alignment with nature and about recognizing that we are part of the complex organism that is nature, rather than this very sort of modern idea that this individualism, that we are abstracted and outside from the world. It takes us completely out of context. And I think it's a damaging mindset, personally. I'm all about, working in harmony with the world around us. So let's move on to Marcus Aurelius, which it's a nice segue, actually. I love using that word, segue. Try and use it as any opportunity to throw a segue in, not like the little scooters, like a segu. Marcus Aurelius, his ideas around gratitude are very much focused on the idea of living in harmony with the natural world. So we're going to dive into some of his thoughts now. So you've got Epictetus, whose locus, his idea, is around stop focusing on shit that you can't control and worry about stuff you can, which is your actions and your responses and your choices. Fundamentally, the only thing in the universe you can control is you, remember? Marcus Aurelius, then. So Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor alongside being a Stoic philosopher. And if you've ever seen the movie Gladiator, that one with Russell Crowe back from the early 2000s, the old guy that John Harris plays who gets smothered by a pillow by his son Commodus, that's Marcus Aurelius, all right? Just to give you some context of historically where he sits. I don't think that Russell Crowe's Gladiator, Maximus, was actually a historical figure, though, but I could be wrong. Correct me in the comments. So Marcus Aurelius, then. So he wrote this huge, great series of volumes called Meditations, and they weren't designed for anyone else to read. They were for him. They were his journals. But they become a really popular reference point for Stoicism, and it's probably the most famous book on Stoic philosophy, unintentionally. But it's well worth a read if you're interested in Stoicism and you want to dive in at the deep end. So Marcus Aurelius, then, his idea of gratitude was implicit in the recognition of the interconnectedness of all things and the natural order of the universe. Going back to what we said earlier, we're all part of a complex organism that is nature. He saw the universe as an organism in which all parts work together in a rational way, and he urged himself to work in harmony with this order. He believed in accepting everything that happens, even seemingly negative events, as part of a divine providence, and he saw value in every experience. So that's going back to this idea that even, good and bad experiences, we can take them as an opportunity to grow and to learn more about ourselves. How do we respond? How do we react? What choices do we make in these events, be they good or bad? And that's a reflection on us as a person. And it can be a powerful tool to hold up, like holding up a mirror against ourselves and reflecting on the actions and the choices and the responses that we had to the events that the universe throws at us. In his meditations, he often reminds himself, and remember that Meditations was his journal, it's not meant for anybody else. So he often reminds himself to reflect on the virtue of others and to appreciate their contributions. So it's a sense of communal gratitude. He's fostering this idea that not only does he exist within nature, but he exists within the contents of a social community, a greater whole. So there's a distinct lack of individualism again in Stoicism, which I think is a really powerful message. If anything else, the best message we can take from Stoicism is to stop acting as islands. We exist in a community of social beings within a broader context of nature at large. And I think that's a really important thing to take away from this. He also talks a lot about impermanence. Now, we love a bit of impermanence, don't we? Memento mori, remember that you will die, in a positive sense. All good things come to an end eventually. So Marcus Aurelius talks about the temporary nature of life, and he talks about the importance of living in accordance with nature. By recognizing impermanence, the impermanence of all things, including his own position, this is the Roman emperor, by the way, and his possessions, Marcus Aurelius found a way to foster a deep sense of appreciation for the present moment. So there's a famous passage from Meditations that says, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." So that is a great example of a gratitude practice. So every morning he gets up and he acknowledges the gift of life and the everyday experience that can very easily be taken for granted, particularly someone like a Roman emperor, who I imagine was afforded all sorts of luxuries of the time. Very akin to the idea of, Zarathustra climbs the mountain and greets the sun. That idea of just being present and being grateful for the experience of being present. So where Marcus Aurelius' thoughts on gratitude differ slightly from Epictetus, he is more about the mindful acknowledgement of the moment and the contribution of others to your experience and the complex beauty of the cosmos, complex sexual cosmos. Well, it's not really sexual. I'm just throwing that in there for shits. I'm just going to very briefly just apologize if you can hear any rattling noises in the background. There is a house directly opposite mine, and some men are currently just throwing scaffold off the house onto the road. So there may be some clanging sounds. It's not the bells or anything. It's scaffold pipes, just so you're aware. Just got to throw that in there, little caveat. So now we are serenaded by the sound of falling scaffolding. Let's talk a little bit about how we can take the ideas we've discussed in Stoicism, from Epictetus, from Marcus Aurelius, and create like a sort of gratitude practice for ourselves, essentially. Let's begin then, akin to Marcus Aurelius, with a morning gratitude meditation. It's very short, very simple. I'm not going to ask you to focus on your breathing or anything, but essentially, let's try and start each day with a quiet moment to reflect on what we are grateful for. So that can include our health, the comfort of our home, the opportunity to learn and work, or the simple fact of being alive. Remember Marcus Aurelius's morning reflection on the privilege of life. So that's our first thing to consider. The next thing is what we're going to call control sphere recognition. So this draws on the thoughts of Epictetus. So throughout the day, when challenges arise, remind yourself of Epictetus's dichotomy of control. Ask yourself, is this within my control? For things that are not, practice letting go with grace. And for those that are, take action with diligence. I think those are some wise words from Epictetus there. And then we have an evening contemplation of interconnectedness. These wonderful words we're coming up with today. So in the evening, reflect on how you are connected to the people and events of your day. Acknowledge the ways in which others' actions have supported your well-being and consider your impact on others, fostering a sense of communal gratitude. And lastly, and I've mentioned this a few times in a few episodes before, but journaling is a great tool for this sort of stuff. So we can keep like a gratitude journal, essentially. So we've done our little contemplation of interconnectedness, and then every night we can write down 3 things that we were grateful for that day. So they can be as significant as a personal achievement, or as simple as a pleasant interaction or a moment of beauty observed in nature. We are really noticing things that are positive in our experiences. Those are some things that you can do as a sort of daily practice then. So we've got the morning gratitude meditation, we've got control sphere recognition, we've got evening contemplation of interconnectedness, and a bit of journaling thrown in for good measure. Now let's think about some practices that you can incorporate into your sort of day-to-day stuff as well. So this isn't part of your daily gratitude routine, but just some things to think about, some things you can try when things are, adversity comes knocking at your door. Firstly, I'm going to invite you to try some negative visualizations. So take a moment to imagine something that you enjoy in life, that you are grateful for, and then visualize what your life would be without that thing. How would you feel? What impact would it have on you? Would there be a sense of loss or emptiness? And just experience that feeling in order to foster a deeper gratitude and appreciation for the thing that you are imagining to have lost. There's acts of service. Acts of service are a really, really powerful tool at improving not only our gratitude, but our empathy, and bringing us into that idea of being a part of a larger social community, giving back to a community. By engaging in acts of service, it gives us a different sense of perspective, because we can see the experiences of others that may not be quite as fortunate as ourselves. We can grow empathy for others. We can appreciate then as well the good stuff that we've got. We can have gratitude for our own situation, and we can be thankful that we are, we are where we are essentially, and that we have what we have. To wrap this up then, gratitude is all about perspective, essentially. It's about how we perceive the world around us, how we perceive ourselves in relation to the world, and recognizing that the only thing that we can control is ourselves. So just accept that life happens, that the universe does shit, and see the adversities that come at us as opportunities to learn about ourselves rather than stuff that we have to deal with. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I have to say on the subject of gratitude this week. Speaking of gratitude, I just want to say a huge thanks to all of you who have taken some time out of your day to listen to this. Your attention, engagement, and awareness is always deeply appreciated. As always, I am keen to hear your thoughts on what I have talked about this week. So if you would like to engage in some conversation, give me some of your ideas, agree with me, disagree with me, challenge me on my thoughts, I would absolutely love for you to do that. You can find us primarily on our Substack, which is theobservingi.substack.com. That's where you're going to find the home of this podcast, and you're going to find some space to comment on the episodes and some of the other writing stuff that's on there. So if you want to go in and throw some ideas, throw your thoughts into the equation here. We're also on YouTube, which is at The Observing Eye, and we're on TikTok at The Observing Eye, and the same with Instagram and Facebook. So any of those platforms that you find you want to use as a preference, come find us and argue with me about what I'm talking about. But in a polite, civilized way. Don't just start throwing shit at the walls. Nobody needs that. As it's Friday, I'd like to wish you all a fabulous weekend. Maybe take a moment to try some of those gratitude practices we talked about in this episode, or, reflect upon what's within your control and what's outside of it. Maybe you're going to go and do an act of service, improve that empathy, go and engage and support others. Whatever it is you're doing this weekend, make sure you accompany it with some rest. Do not underestimate the importance of rest and taking time for yourself. Much love, everybody, and I'll catch you soon.
You've been listening to The Observing Eye. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I hope that you found it useful. And if you're interested in any more of my writings or work around psychology and philosophy and general day-to-day living, please go and take a look at my Substack, which is theobservingi.substack.com, and that's I as in the letter, not I as in the gelatinous organ through which you see. Take care, everybody. Much love, and I'll see you soon.